Hey, how's it going? Today is 12th of October, Saturday, and we're gonna be taking a look at the market and what kind of opportunities we can find. In today's video, we can take a look at some of the government's press releases, something that was released yesterday. That would be UK and Switzerland to kick off trade talks. I believe they do have agreement, trade agreement, so perhaps they might be considering increasing how much trade both governments gonna be doing, if not right now, perhaps in the near future. That the UK and Switzerland negotiating to meet the first time since the elections to restart negotiation on the upgraded of trade agreement. Oh, okay, so we perhaps some improvements, all those kind of things. Perhaps it's most likely won't be covered, but I believe that might be taking a look at high-end industries, right? Trade between the two countries is worth over 50 billion. Negotiations begins at the first International Investment Summit. Gets under way showcasing why UK top destination for inward investment. Oh, okay. I don't know. So, we can take a look at and let's try to understand what Switzerland is doing when it comes to perhaps high-end large contracts. Perhaps we were take a look at how where Lithuania is purchasing a lot of equipment. If perhaps Switzerland might be able to sell some of that equipment, but I don't know contracts, right? So potentially some of those contracts might be structured in different way where perhaps Switzerland might lease some of the services and later you need to give that back, all these kind of things that would not necessarily would be discussed publicly, but either way. We can take a look at three articles, something that was published by Switzerland themselves. And from there, we can perhaps briefly understand when it comes to arms trade and what Switzerland is doing. So I thought I'll touch on article. It seems that the news and information platform operated by Swiss Broadcasting Corporation. So potentially for information that Switzerland themselves publishing, right? From there, we can take a look at what UK and or Europe is publishing about Switzerland after that. I haven't read any of those articles yet. Again, we're taking a look at information, and perhaps Switzerland is focusing on information as well as looking to publish information in 10 different languages. And this is from Switzerland's perspective, right? Kind of. I haven't read it, by the way. Swiss companies export tanks, weapons, and other war materials worth of I think it's very similar to euros trading rate, but either way, that would be in dollars. That would be 1 billion to 60 countries in 2002. This is nearly a third more than the last year, and the highest level on the record. Right. When it comes to defense, most of the governments they do take these kind of things very seriously. But Switzerland perhaps is neutral, I guess. But when it comes to trade, I don't know. The total value of war material exports in 2022 exceeded the previous record set in 2020 by 6%. The state secretary for economic affairs reported on Tuesday. War material exports represents 0.25% of Switzerland's total exports, up from I don't know this percentage. I do not agree with this data. By the way, weapons are weapons. It's a 0.025. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We're discussing tools that, based on person holding this kind of tool, this person can do a lot of things with, right? So that's what we're discussing, not the percentage. Less than 1%. Either way, we're discussing. We're discussing selling those tools, right? Just as sticking to you, what's really happening, right? Mainly tanks and ammunition, but the main exports were armored vehicles, 25.5% ammunition, and all ammunition components, 24.8%, right? So potentially what they're selling, and most likely it's something that has been published by Switzerland themselves, right? The largest transaction was the defense systems to Qatar, followed by tanks to Denmark for 130.3 million, which is close to euros, and supplies of spares parts for defense systems to Saudi Arabia for 25.1 million. Tanks value at 33.3 million were also sold to Botswana, right? So potentially defense systems. By the way, for people who do understand manufacturing, they do, and these people do understand how much research and development should be invested into developing some of those areas, as well as to manufacture a lot. To manufacture first unit, it can cost a lot. To manufacture number of units doesn't cost that much, by the way. Just saying, right? Anyway, from there we can take a look at the next article, right? Next article, that would be potentially some of those defense systems, right? Even Europe is interested potentially in purchasing, perhaps they would call a shield, quote unquote, right? And there might be a lot of governments looking to enter into different agreements. I believe even UK is interested in purchasing so-called shield, right? These kinds of shields, they would have different names. Either way, that would be. Perhaps Switzerland contributes to a global arms trade boom. So we can take a look at this article. I haven't read it, by the way. I know these articles, right? And again, this information has been published by themselves, right? Global military expenditure hit record levels last year, with government shelling out nearly 2 trillion, which equals to 1.8 trillion. Switzerland was the 14th biggest exporter of weapons, according to Stockholm International Peace Research Institute. Okay, okay, so they did have a lot of hardware. If you would ask me, most likely they have a lot of hardware on the equipment or in the warehouses, right? If that makes sense. If they had a lot of equipment, old equipment, potentially 20 years old or so to say, right? Perhaps they were interested in selling off old inventory and building new, right? I believe that would be a process, but I haven't read it yet. Swiss companies exported war material worth material. Okay, okay, so that's English, I guess. The way how Switzerland is translating to, right, right. So potentially products and services, right? Worth of 901.2 million, equals to euros. It's very similar exchange rate to 62 countries in 2020, up to 24% from previous year, which represents 0.7%. Okay, okay, well, again, this is less than 1% of the entire trade. Anyway, let's take a look at just so I can understand, right? Overall spending, most likely Swiss defense expenditure was nearly 6 billion in 2019, according to the latest official figures. This represents 2.5% of country's total economic output, the gross domestic product, right? Let's take a look at the next article. It's just there are so many different articles, right? And the last article, again, same news platform, which is based in Switzerland. And for people who are interested, they can take a look at this platform. I know it might be of interest. Perhaps overall platform, the way how information will be published, might be of interest. I haven't checked it out, this news the last one before, but anyway, we can take a look at the last one. Biggest Swiss-based arm manufacturer revealed. Let's try to understand this company. Perhaps they might be interested in working together, perhaps in the future. That would be exporting arms is the biggest business for Switzerland, but who are actual manufacturers and exporters? After 5 years legal dispute, names can finally be published. Okay, Swiss companies exported 501 million. It's equal to euros in war material in the first half of 2020. The State Secretary for Economic Affairs said on Tuesday almost twice as much as the same period in 2019. Should we cover those businesses? Should we publish this kind of information? I don't think these people would like to cover this information, right? So let's move on. If they don't wanna, let's do not bring attention to them. I just want to touch on some information that I managed to find, right? Some of the sources that Switzerland's military is currently facing personnel shortage, and it's considering several reforms to address this issue. The government has indicated that by 2030, the military will need approximately 140,000, which is a massive amount, by the way. Some of those governments in Scandinavian countries, they could have 40,000, but who knows exactly, right? Because what I can access and what other people can access might be that information might be not the best up to date. Let's say this way, right? But they anticipate shortfall of about 20,000 civil defense personnel. One of the proposed reforms include extending compulsory military services to women, which is kind of interesting idea. Uh, let's close on that. We can take a look at that would be European sources, right? That would be Putin, cash and all guns prompt explosive rethink of Swiss neutrality after 500 years of non-alliance. This is what's published. While I'm reading it, I'm not necessarily agree or disagree. I'm just reading it, right? Years of non-alliance bombshell report recommended closer cooperation with the UN, NATO. And what would be important part is something I was trying to find out a little bit more. That would be allowing arms exports. Switzerland arms exports fall last year by 25% to less than 700 million Swiss francs, which is equals to 746 million euros, compared to 2002 due to strict arm export provisions and one-off effect of quota ending air defense systems purchase tied to its hosting of the 2022 World Cup. Okay. So that will be Europe, is something that Europe is taking a look at. Anyway, let's progress and let's take a look at this article. It's something that UK have published, right? That will be Swiss weapons exports plunge as neutral stance hurts trade. So that was published 7 months ago by UK sources at TDB. Take a look at the market and myself, the way I know reason why I would be reading it, I would like to understand a little bit better what Switzerland can manufacture or what Switzerland is interested in manufacturing, right? They most likely they can build ammunition. Oh, okay. What in regards to size, how big of ammunition Switzerland can build? Small arms, it can be built those systems. Perhaps they can, which is kind of interesting, right? As well as tanks, we can build tanks. Oh, okay, what can they build? Planes. Swiss weapons exports fall by more than a quarter last year. The government said on Tuesday, with critics blaming the country's neutral stance, which has blocked the re-export of Swiss-made guns and ammunition to some of those governments up there. War material exports fell 27%. Okay, we have covered that a couple of times already. Let's keep some of that information, but let's take a look at European partners. Perhaps they might be interested in research and development. Perhaps Switzerland can take care of some of that, most likely. 2022, Spain, Denmark, and Germany were denied permission to export armaments to. Okay. Some of those governments have their straining relations and rising concerns in the Swiss arm industry, which includes multinationals, Lockheed Martin. Okay. So research and development. So if you would ask me, most likely there's a lot of research and development is happening in Switzerland, right? And it perhaps let's close on that. Some of those companies. What I'm interested. Switzerland they might have a lot of rivers, but they not necessarily have been landlocked country access to ports. So most likely Switzerland might be interested in airplanes, right? And but as of now, nothing's been covered in that regards. But anyway, I have seen a lot of equipment in some of the airports that was manufactured in Switzerland. So maybe they have some expertise in that kind of area. Other than that, that's the reason why I'm reading it. Anyway, let's close on that. Thanks for watching. See you next one.